Jim?
I got two items. One about the long trail, the trail that goes through Westford. I got a email from Bill Harmon, this is again related to 5 Callista Terrace, that he'd had several reports from hikers that there was an obstruction on that section of the trail. And that was a section that Dave Ebbetson of the Conservation Trust and I had checked out and blazed with a yellow blaze around that section from Stony Brook Road behind Callista Terrace up to Hill Orchard. So I went and hiked it and looked. There's no obstructions. There is a difficult corner that goes over a stone wall and all that, but there are no obstructions. So I wrote back to both the trust and Bill, letting them know. So just to let you know.
Well, thank you for checking it out.
Raised again. And then secondly, I accompanied Keith Morris. He's an environmental consultant for Pan Am Railways. Well, Pan Am Railways, I guess about a month ago, got bought by CSX, an international or a national company, and they are going to be taking over doing all of the spraying and all of the road bed maintenance with their internal employees, as opposed to Pan Am, which was hiring out consultants. So we're probably not going to hear from Keith Morris anymore. It'll be somebody directly from CSX next year and the year after. But anyway, I accompanied them from the North Chelmsford area all the way through to the Littleton line, and worked out fine.
How'd you hear about them?
They called me.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
because you were there last time.
I'm glad to hear that, because
Glad
again,
to.
driving into Stony Brook, I check on the vegetation in the rail bed to see, and 3 weeks ago it was still pretty green, and then most recently it started to brown up, and I was like, uh-oh, I don't know if they reached out to, I have to check with Jim.
About a week and a half ago.
Okay, great.
Nice.
That means it's working right.
The only problem we had was there was one trespasser on the tracks, not too far from the Stony Brook Conservation Land. There's a section where there's two rails there, there's a spur off to the side and the main track. Well, between them, somebody was walking. And the way these sprayers work, they can actually shoot it like 30 feet to the sides if they want to. And so instead of going down the spur trail, they stay on the main track and just squirt it over. But the guy was walking in the middle of the road, so they had to stop, let him walk the other way, continue on. So anyway, it worked out well.
All right.
That's all I had.
Thank you, Jim.
I have a couple
Noel?
things. The shed on Elm Road, Matt, is that,
I haven't followed up, but I will.
okay. And, the Hemlock Road, have you contacted the Westford Police or the people in
Bunyan?
the?
Oh, I haven't, I've stopped out, I haven't seen any more activity.
I haven't
So,
either.
yeah, so I can certainly make sure to remind people that, it is conservation land, please don't, hack it up, so.
Yeah, and then the lakefront on Enmore, we're gonna talk about that later, right? The landscaping that I sent you a picture of.
Yes, that was included in the packet, it's a discussion item.
All right, that's it.
Excellent. Matt?
Teamworks Adventure Camp and the Recreation Department's Destination Exploration have started this week up at the Stony Brook Conservation Area, East Boston camps. So glad to see it's being used as, it historically has. The Parks and Recreation Commission will be holding a virtual public meeting tomorrow, June 23rd at 7 p.m. to discuss the proposed recreation and aquatics facility feasibility study that was performed. The commission is a butter to literally all 4 parcels that they have looked at. So if the commission is interested, the link was in the packet. And also, I think a couple people from the feasibility study will be going before the select board at their meeting next Tuesday, June 28th. Just wanted to,
What did you say the link was?
it was on the, it's the,
Do we have it?
yeah, it's the notification at the end. I can also resend it to you if you'd
Will
like.
you?
Yep.
Thanks. Send it to my home.
And, yeah, yes. And last but not least, the schedule, the commission meeting schedule that was prepared months ago now, has the commission's next meeting on July 6th. That's the first Wednesday of the month. I thought it was odd, and so if it is amenable to the commission, I'd like to cancel that, revise the meeting schedule date, potentially put one on July 13th. We haven't received any new public applications, so there's no public hearings that need to open that night. So if the commission is also amenable, I was gonna try and see what could be if anything, see if any requests can get pushed to the end of July. And if not, and something is timely that, the commission does need to act on, I would request the next meeting on July 13th be held virtually, because it likely is short. Again, there's no public hearings. There's
So
nothing
what dates
on.
do you have for July? 'Cause you've never.
It would be the 13th, July 13th and 28th.
And the
27th, sorry,
The way we
27th.
normally did it.
Yes.
How did it get to be the first one?
It's 3 weeks between this meeting.
Because we
and-
never do that. Okay.
Yeah, it
Thank you.
just got mixed up.
All set?
That's all.
Excellent. Okay, we're going to move on to our 7:05 PM agenda item, which is an appointment with the Friends of East Boston Camps requesting permission to serve alcohol at an event at Stony Brook Conservation Area. Good evening.
Marcia Stokes, 10 Holly Lane, and as you know, Westford Friends of East Boston Camps is having a gala on September 10th, the Great Gatsby Gala, and I have gone before you to have the fee waived to have the event, and so now I'm coming forward to you for permission to have alcohol that one night. I have filled out the paperwork at Town Hall and wrote the check, and it will go in front of the select board on the 28th. We're using Merrimack Valley distributors, which we have used in the past.
Members from the commission have any questions or comments in regards to this request?
Decide where the event is gonna be, that'll be it, right? All
Will it be in the mess hall?
Yeah.
Or sorry.
Yeah, all the serving and consumption will be inside.
At
It's
the
all
bar, at
inside.
one location, yeah.
It's all inside.
Any other questions from the commission? Questions from the audience in regards to this request? Seeing none, can I have a motion to the effect?
So move.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you so
very
much. Okay, we're going to move on to our next 7:05 PM agenda item, which is an appointment with Flowers to Empower requesting to add a refrigerator to an existing shed at the Day Agricultural Field. Evening, Elizabeth.
Good evening, Elizabeth Almeida, 41 West Street. I'm happy to be here tonight and share our next steps for Flowers to Empower. We are requesting to put a refrigerator in the shed that has electricity. We have 2 sheds down there. That are part of the community garden. The one on the left has electricity. It has the pump for the well. And we have realized in the past few weeks that having refrigeration would extend the shelf life and give us a longer window to sell the flowers. I started poking around looking for refrigerators, seeing what I could find, what's out there, because I know the market's tough right now. By chance, I found a flower farmer who's going out of business, who has refrigerators he would like to donate to us, which
Nice.
is huge. He actually would give us 2. And the interesting thing is, one of the problems at the community garden has been that when gardeners donate produce, it sits in the hot shed, and sometimes it's not good by the time we take it over to the community, to the food pantry. So I wanted to know, I know when FALA started, I think there was some concern about having refrigeration down there, so I wanted to understand what the commission's concern in general with refrigeration would be. And then, as I'll talk to the Ag Commission, see how they feel about this, and figure out what solution, if 1 refrigerator is a good solution, if 2 refrigerators, since we can get them for free and have 1 for flowers, 1 for food donations. I'd like your feedback, and then we can sort it out with the Ag Commission. I think it's the Ag Commission. I haven't been involved with.
It's not us.
It's not us.
No.
So the cost for the refrigeration, the electricity would be picked up by the same.
So I think it's reasonable for the flower group to contribute to that electricity. I would hate to see the cost of a separate meter being put in, but if we can figure out a fair way, if we can look at past bills of what the water, right now, the only electrical use is the well. So if we can look at
I
some.
don't remember any particular concerns from.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
neither. I just wanted to ask before we started.
Do you have any of the young ladies working with you this summer?
I do. We have
Excellent.
Natalie and Gianna.
Fantastic. Good.
They've been, I think Gianna's been at every single session 3 times a week, helping with the flowers, and Natalie's been at quite a few, and also helping with a lot on the sales end as well.
How's it all working out?
It's been amazing. We have the whole plot planted. We have sunflowers that are this big. We have our first encounter with a bunny.
The killer bunnies.
We have a fence up, but apparently we've learned that the mothers send the little ones through the holes in the fence to eat the sunflowers, so we're now adding more fence, you know, we're being little Mr. McGregor down there. And Monday, we had a very exciting field trip. We took the students to Brewster, to Chatham Bar's in Farm Stand, where they have an amazing flower farm, and met with 2 professional flower farmers, and they spent 2 hours with our students. I mean, I have been telling people I learned more in those 2 hours than I've learned in a single day, like, at least in the past decade.
Great.
So the students were inspired to keep going and keep learning, so.
It's great. Margaret?
Yeah, with having the refrigerators in that shed, is that gonna cause a space problem in the fall when, if this shed is used for storage?
And that's something I'll work out with the Ag Commission. My recollection of how the storage has gone is that the shed on the right is usually packed completely full, and the one on the left, not so much.
Okay.
We just haven't, historically, we haven't used the one on the left very much because the well equipment's in there and we generally keep that locked.
Okay, so there's also a lock on it, so you could secure, the shed
Yes. Yep.
when nobody's there? Okay.
Right, so we would do the same thing. I talked to one of the garden leaders already a little bit about it, and we're confident we can figure out a system that the shed is not open. You know, the people who need in there can have access, but we won't leave the shed open, 24/7.
Excellent. Anything else from the commission? Questions from the audience in regards to this request? Seeing none, can I have a motion to allow Flowers to Empower to add a refrigerator or refrigerators to the existing shed at the Day Agricultural Field?
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you for doing it.
Okay, we're going to move on to our 7:10 PM agenda item, which is a public hearing for 14 Brookview Drive.
Good evening, everyone.
But wait, let us read our
Sorry.
legal
Yeah,
notice
okay.
first.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting on Wednesday, June 22nd, 2022, at 7:10 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the request for determination of applicability application of Angelo Mascarenas for removal of approximately 8 to 10 trees within 100 feet of a perennial stream and within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetlands at 14 Brookview Drive. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nick Emanuel. We were hired by Angelo to remove these trees. The trees are in the back along the creek. They are leaning over the house, so they present a concern to falling. Rob knows more of the logistics of the project, who is our tree division manager. The trees have significant wash away from underneath on the river, and they look to be leaning, so we would like to get them proactively gone before they fall on Angelo's house.
So Matt, you've been out here?
Yes, I met with with Rob, I forgot your last name. Tower. On site, prior to the filing, because it does provide an interesting situation, whereas the trees are being undermined by the stream currently. Based on Rob's expertise, you shot the tops of them. They are all within proximity of, where they do fall, they are in proximity of the structure. So that is consistent with the commission's, typical commission's view on removing trees. Particularly, I mean, the closest one is probably 3 feet from the top of the bank, but it is being eroded underneath and does provide a safety. There is a safety concern to this. One component I did discuss on site, and if it is amenable to the commission and also to the applicant, would be to leave, a couple snags, 10, 15 feet tall, which certainly wouldn't reach the house, which is far enough away from the house, but would allow for some habitat to remain and not just remove, all the trees to the stump. And no stumping was anticipated.
None whatsoever. We want to keep the stumps intact. That'll help to promote the bank staying together.
And the work was proposed to be done by crane from the driveway on the opposite side of the house and from the stream.
Any opportunities for, typically when we have somebody cut down a tree, especially so close, practically, we're in the resource area. I didn't know if there was any proposal to be planting anything in lieu of, or is what's pre-existing gonna grow in, or?
I think there will be some, I mean, it is on the shaded, it's on the southerly side, so it's gonna be shaded. Also, on the house side of the stream, it is fairly well vegetated. I think there was some Virginia creeper, some other native, there was a very healthy native buffer to the, so I can certainly explore that with the applicant, see if there are opportunities to plant a couple trees.
It's typically what we do.
Yep.
If we have somebody cut it down, you cut when you plant one.
Well, it's worth asking if it's doable.
And also, it, maybe in this case, not trees, but shrubs, something whose root growth would continue to help the bank
Stabilize
stay
the bank.
stabilized. So, just something like that to help it.
Now, Matt, is that something you would want on the homeowner side of the bank or on the opposite side of the bank? And if I may expound for just a second, Rob Tower, I run Emmanuel Brothers Tree Division. The trees in question are on the opposite side of the bank, away from the client's house. I don't know that planting on
Well, they're
that side-
showing it on the bank side closest and not on the opposite side.
It's actually on the bank side, away, opposite side from the customer's house, the client's house. I don't think I'd replant there, because when Matt was there with me, like one eastern white pine, that's almost 100 feet tall, it has 7 or 8 degrees of sweep headed at the client, this gentleman's house. That is eroded, so the erosion goes under the root ball. It's about 7 or 8 feet deep underneath the root ball, and you can see below it. So I don't know that planting there would be a long-term thing. I would think you'd want to plant
Well, if you-
on his side.
Perhaps we could find locations for opportunities for planting.
Absolutely.
A lot of times, we like it in the general vicinity. It certainly doesn't have to be on top of where you took it down.
That's what I
Like you
think.
say, what works best. I haven't been out there, you've seen it, you know what's gonna work and what's not gonna work.
Now, would you have a suggested plant list that you would want? Vegetation area?
It's usually indigenous
Yeah,
species.
native species. I defer usually to native plant trusts. I spent way too much time.
Stick away from the white pine, and the soft. That's what everybody's cutting down, Put up some nice hardwoods or something, or some nice shrubs.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, we can do some wetland.
high bush
replication,
blueberry or
right?
something, something that, might give some habitat value.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from the commission? Questions from the audience? Seeing none, can I have a motion to issue a conditional negative determination for 14 Brookview Drive?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Excellent,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Close the public hearing?
What's that?
Close the public hearing?
Will we need to work with him on his? You'll work with him?
Yeah,
Okay. Motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to move on to our 7:15 PM agenda item, which is public hearing continued and issue order of conditions for 120 Main Street.
Good evening, Matt Waterman with Land Tech Consultants, here on behalf of DeCarellis Corp. The last meeting we were here, which was your last meeting, on June 8th. Just a quick refresher, it's new construction. It's the former Hicks Farm. This is lot number 2, it's second from the right, closest to Westford Center. There's wetlands and riverfront on the back of the property that separate this property and the properties on Douglas Road. All work was outside the 100-foot buffer and the 200-foot buffer. And the majority of the work is associated with just restoration work for the small gravel pad in the upper left, and then the paved area in the, kind of in the middle section of our plan view. We revised the plan based on the comments to include conservation posts along the 100-foot wetland buffer, and then to show a fence enclosure for the pool. Happy to answer any questions. I know Matt submitted draft copies of the order of conditions. Be happy to answer any of those questions as well.
Jim?
One question, Matt. Is this backwash into the drain?
That's a roof drain.
Oh, roof
Okay, I asked that exact same question. And I spoke with Peter DeCarlis, who's manager of the DeCarlis Corp. And if there is a backwash for the pool, he anticipates it'll be a saltwater pool. It would be a separate system, and it wouldn't be associated with the stormwater management system.
Saltwater, they usually don't backflush.
And that's what I thought too as well. And he said, and I know 90% of, well, the majority of the pools that are going in are saltwater. But that, and we could include it as a condition that it would have to have a backwash filter if it is required. Sure. He just wanted to keep it separate from the stormwater management permit, just
Yep.
have different piles, not to confuse things. I thought this exact same thing.
Matt, has the lot to the right of lot 2 come before us yet?
No, and it will be at some point when they are moving forward. I know that they're working on lot 1 and then lot 2, and then
Okay.
I'm assuming lot 3 either in the fall or the spring.
Okay, because my only really question was more to make sure that with what we're doing for delineating the conservation posts, that it extends consistently from one lot to another.
So there's continuity.
So there's continuity.
Yep.
And so that's just when lot 3 comes around.
Yeah, no, and I think they will. I mean, I think they're consistent in that both the houses are up at the front of the lot and septics are up front.
Yep.
So I want to say that we can certainly do that.
Okay. Yeah, because it's, if they're inconsistent, that can create questions between the homeowners.
And we've had that issue before where it's been the lots have been segmented, and all of a sudden, those conservation posts become disjointed and,
No, we can connect, because we did lot 4, which is the multifamily lot. So we could certainly show the extensions of either one and how they kind of tie together.
Okay.
That's helpful. Other questions from the commission? Questions from the audience on the plan? So let's move to the orders. So we just added an additional order with the backwash?
Yes, I wanted to
So that'll be
clarify.
order 48?
I would
Or-
probably add it somewhere more in the
between,
middle,
okay, that's fine.
where it seems appropriate. But that's, pool backwash is to be located outside the 100-foot wetlands buffer and riverfront area.
The slope is downward, so we don't want it dumped. It's still quite a distance. The pool is from the 100-foot line. It's just that it's downhill, so
Okay,
we just don't want it washing
Just
down into the wetland.
putting it in the record, understand.
Okay.
I can add that.
So Matt, did your client have any other changes, or?
No other comments. We went through them, and there was no comments on the orders.
Commission have any other changes or comments to the orders? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve the orders 1 through, we'll call it 48, as amended for 120 Main Street, DEP file number 334-1802?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to our 7:20 PM agenda item, which is to review an enforcement order restoration plan for 7 Juneberry Lane.
Scared me. Sorry. I didn't see you back there, sorry. Hi, good evening. Again, for the record, Matt Waterman with Land Tech Consultants. Here with me tonight also is Robert Stone, or Bob Stone, who's the former owner of the property, and the applicant for the certificate of compliance, which kind of initiated the enforcement order discussion, which we had actually was back at the May 11th conservation meeting. We needed a meeting or two to kind of go through changes, not only with Bob, but the current homeowners, and then review those with Matt Salem ahead of time, and just make sure that we were presenting something to the commission that we felt this commission would accept. On the plan tonight, there's a couple things. And at the last meeting, we reviewed the changes that were made to the lot. Again, this was a Hicks project, probably built in, and I forget, I didn't bring my notes, but 93 or so. This is at the very end of Juneberry, which is in the Hitch and Post Green subdivision. There's two separate conservation parcels in the back, one for Hitch and Post Greens 1 and the second one for Hitch and Post Greens 2. There was some kind of extensive expansion of the lawn area and the paved driveway, and a tree house that it kind of was outside the scope of the original notice of intent. The developer, Mr. Hicks, had also kind of flipped the house and put a smaller footprint, which kind of gave us some additional woodland area on the upper right. We submitted a plan to Matt, which I think accomplishes what this board would want to see. And I'll go through the points quickly. And I have my pointer. We removed most of the athletic court within the 50-foot buffer. The tennis court, athletic court extended beyond this kind of hatched area. And this crosshatch area is a trapezoid shape. It's 40 feet wide, which is the width of the driveway, by 20 feet on the northern side and 25 feet on the south. And the intent there wasn't to squeeze anything out of the commission. It was just the desire with the current homeowners to maintain some kind of functional, basketball hoop in that area. So previously, it removes 880 square feet, and I can't quite read it, Matt, I apologize, but I think it was 22 feet, and it goes up to 38.5. And then there's also some stone areas that were adjacent to it. This orange area is the restoration area that will be naturalized permanently. It's the mixture of that court that was removed, and then lawn areas or hardscaped areas that were established down in this area and around the lawn. Most of those are within the 50-foot buffers. The 50-foot buffers cross the property that way, and then again cross the property that way. There's a wetland on either side of the lot. So we brought the lawn areas out to that 50, and again we maintained this small, crescent-shaped area of lawn area. Just it was outside. It's within the 100, but outside the 50, just in an effort to maintain a little bit of the usable yard space. We do restore the 880 feet of pavement, which I mentioned, but then an additional 3,600 square feet of lawn area for a total of 4,500 square feet of area to be naturalized. We show the conservation posts every 25 feet or so to demarcate this area. The area off-site all gets restored. I didn't include that in the calcs because it's not on the property, and that will be removed and restored. The tree house, and then the shed. We left the shed, but we put the post just around the shed. The access for the shed is on the lawn side, and so we were going to request that the shed remain, but that there would be limited access, just about 3 feet, just to get around the shed, but nobody hangs around their shed. They just go into the front door of the shed and access their equipment. And then lastly, down in the lower right corner, we provided the impervious area calcs and a planting plan, which includes a dry mix from the wetland seed mix from the group out of New England Wetland Plants. Be happy to answer any questions. Bob is here certainly to talk.
That's quite a
Eric, do you want the pointer?
Yeah, he's done with it.
Sure.
Do we have those restoration numbers you were calling out?
They're on the plan in the lower right.
Yep.
The tree stuff? Oh, the, lower left. Oh, good. I didn't even see that. Thank you.
Sorry,
That's good.
I think it's right on there, but I cut and pasted it out onto my
Okay,
notes, so.
it's on our bottom left. That's good.
But it does include all the areas,
Yep.
from the original design plan to the as-built plan,
Okay.
to what we're proposing with this plan, and then the difference.
So I guess my comment would be, okay, over here, you know, you want to maintain this inside of the 50. And then over here, you want to maintain the shed over inside the 50. So if you want to do this, and you want to be inside the 50 here, you know, maybe you can compensate and give us a little something more then, because you're right at the 50 here, and you say you're basically right at the 50. And if you want to have that intrusion closer inside of the 50, you know, maybe you can compensate somewhere else.
We could certainly do that, and we could give you 1.5 times that, or
You know, maybe,
something.
because you got
have to
this
do the
over
number.
here, and you're looking for accommodation over here as well.
Yep, no,
So-
and between the two, we could certainly give you those two areas, in-lawn area, down in that lower section, and providing, and we'll exceed 1-to-1. It'll be something more than.
Yeah, and then, you know, you've got that post all the way down there. You don't have it, you know, that way you can just lift it up and, you know.
Across.
Yeah, I mean, the 50 comes down through, it gets lost in the hatching. I mean, so this area in here right now is all, I mean, you know.
I get it, it's slightly outside the 50, but I think he could,
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
since he wants to be closer to the wetland there, I'm just looking for accommodation to us.
Okay. No, I think that still gives them plenty of yard space.
No, and I think it does.
That's a pretty pushed out backyard, so.
Okay.
Because I don't want to say no. And I know you want to keep your shed where it is.
Okay, I could live with it.
We-
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that.
no,
What do you think about that?
We can
Really
certainly
good.
do that.
Yeah, no, I think, Margaret?
Yeah, I just, one of the things I would want to make sure is that the shed is not used for storing any kind of fuel. You know, gasoline or whatever.
Any sort of chemicals, really?
Yeah, that's true, chemicals, so, you know, not weed killer or stuff like that.
Our
Or
flooring is on the shed,
It's a wood floor.
wood floor, okay.
What is in the shed now?
I'm not sure, I don't own the house.
Oh, yeah,
Beauty.
nothing is in the shed now, not
The
yet.
new homeowners as
Sorry,
well.
gentleman behind you was talking. What do you say?
Nothing is in shed right now.
Okay,
So he would hear that, okay.
Okay.
yeah. So
And
just,
I would like to ask if there is anything that can be done to not touch the basketball area where the driveway is, to keep some other land on the other side or something. Because kids play basketball there every day, I haven't even told them that they won't have basketball court.
Well, your basketball court, oh, sorry. Get that off there and go me back to that.
Orange one.
Yeah, orange one. So the basketball court area is over here, right? So it seemed like right now, there is this accommodation here, so this can continue to be used as an area where you can shoot basketball. Isn't that what you said, Matt?
Yes, correct.
So I believe that's still being, that use is still being accommodated, even though, you know, these areas here are going to be renaturalized.
He looks perplexed.
My thought process was, I know the commission, even with artificial surfaces, you know, there's the no-touch 35 and the no structures 55 or 30 and 55, and we were trying to at least meet that with that, removing the paved area, so that was kind of my, like, thought process, was at least to maintain that, get it as far out of the 50-foot buffer as possible, and hopefully try to maintain some, you know, usable basketball.
And I think we're trying to accommodate that interest. And you seem to be okay with it?
Well, he's the,
Well, he's the new he's the purchaser, not the owner. The gentleman behind's the owner.
Correct.
right, yes.
Okay,
I'm the one who lives there and who enjoys that house right now.
I know.
And I don't know what to tell my kids now, because I wasn't disclosed all this when I purchased the house.
But unfortunately, it shouldn't have been where it is. It was built, and it all can't stay the way it was, but at least we're trying to accommodate the interest
There was
there
some.
and providing some opportunity.
Yeah, no, what I'm requesting is not to remove any of the paved area and remove something else somewhere along, like a tree house, take more of the tree house, come into the lawn, take that area to.
In other words, he wants to leave the sport court.
Yeah.
and
Oh, I know he does.
I'd rather
And I
trade
just,
that off.
I can't let that, not right there. But, this is the plan before us that's been presented. I think we've made minor changes to it, revision, but overall, with the minor changes, the plan would be acceptable to the to the commission. Jim, you had something?
No,
I
I think it's
agree.
fine.
Any chance you can come take a look one more time if there is any other area that can be compensated, by not removing the paved area, please?
If there's gonna be changes made, the applicant has to make the changes, and if there's just disagreement between the buyers and the sellers, that's not our business to get involved in.
Yeah, this is the plan before us, and,
Yep.
this is one that seems the commission can agree upon. So,
Well, and
Margaret?
Matt, was there any exploration of relocating that sport court area to outside the 50-foot? If it's important to have it, could it be located elsewhere?
We could certainly look into that. We did not look into that, and we had submitted this plan to all parties, was my understanding. And we can certainly look into that.
So
I mean,
that would-
if
that would
that's an
help.
important feature, maybe look at relocating.
yeah, if you want
the-
to and come back to us with an alternative, that would be fine too. But, with the plan you presented us, with just minor alteration, it would be acceptable.
Yep. No, we could certainly look into that.
Other questions from the commission? Questions from the audience? So you want to continue this?
Yes, please.
July 13th?
27th?
27th. Okay, motion to continue the public hearing until July
Well,
27th.
this isn't a public hearing, it's
Well, it's
the restoration.
the
Yeah.
enforcement order,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, but to July.
27th.
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Gives you a little time.
We'll close
Thank
it.
you very much.
Thank you.
And we will make sure we have everything in order when we come back, hopefully.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to our 7:30 PM agenda item, which is a public hearing continued for 31 Bridge Street, and the applicant has requested a
skip.
continuance.
25.
Skip 725.
Oh, because we had an enforcement order above it. Okay, we're going to move on to our 7:25 PM agenda item, which is a ratifying enforcement order issued June 9th, 2022, and an appointment with the property owner for 59 Hilda Street. Good evening.
I'm Russ Trey with KC Building, 59 Hilda Street. I'm here to try to explain what happened with cutting in the 100-foot buffer zone. You closed the hearing on it in May, and approximately the middle of May, it had all the erosion control, it was installed. Then my engineer realized, because I'm part owner of 63, we had to go for the Stormwater Management Act. That was closed out Monday, June 7th. The next day, Tuesday, I realized I never asked Matt to come out and look at the silt fence, or the hay bale. So he agreed to come out the following Monday at 10 o'clock. My tree cutter was there Wednesday. Actually, he moved in late Tuesday, and he was there Wednesday to start. I told him he could start cutting, but I didn't tell him to stay out of the 100-foot buffer. And I left the site for about 3 hours, because I actually sold my house and we were moving over on Main Street. By the time I got back, everything was already laid down. He started in a 100-foot buffer. I immediately went right up to the office to see Matt, and he wasn't in. See, I was suggested we just stop, which we did. And that's where we are now. Most importantly, I don't want it to show any disrespect towards Matt or the board. It was just an honest, too much going on at one time. Mistake.
So, how egregious was the cutting?
I mean, it was the full cutting of, or almost all of the, I think, the full cutting for the lot. it was stopped at the time, from, I think, June 8th. But the erosion controls were installed satisfactorily. Or by the time the following Monday, the erosion controls, again, this is a right off the road, I certainly.
Was the cutting any closer than what had been approved by the commission?
No.
In regards, okay, so.
And
This
again,
was more of a not going out and having you do your pre-meeting prior to cutting.
right, inspecting the erosion controls, making sure all those prior to conditions that the commission issues, making sure that those are satisfied. And again, upon going out, I think it was, last Monday, if, the erosion controls were installed satisfactorily, DEP fine was installed. Again,
Installed in the right location?
yes.
Okay.
I mean, and all the special conditions, that were in violation of, were related to getting a schedule, notifying the commission no more than 2 weeks, no less than 10 prior to the start of work, inspecting the erosion controls prior to activity, and I think there was one other one that I can't recall off the top of my head, but was listed in the enforcement order as the special
No harm
condition.
came to the property. No harm came to the property. I'm just asking.
Definitely jumped a few procedural hoops.
I did not say that.
Yeah, I know I hear what you're saying.
The question.
No, I heard that's why I asked too.
I understand all that.
Yeah. Jim, what do you think?
It does seem it was jumping the gun rather than anything that damages wetlands or buffer zones, so I'm okay with it, I think. I don't think we have to, impose.
Issue a fine is what you're saying, we don't need to
I
issue
would
one.
not support
Right,
that.
nothing punitive, I don't think.
I wouldn't
Good.
support that.
What do the other commission members think?
I agree. Jim?
Margaret, you okay?
Yes. I think this is.
Things happen.
This
This
is-
wasn't purposeful, so it
Right,
feels.
and nothing more got done than
That's correct.
what should have been done.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to make sure, at least the erosion controls were in place where they were supposed to be, limit of work controls in place, and there wasn't any work that incurred any closer to the resource area than what had been approved by the commission.
I apologize, it's just,
It was, however, a violation of the order of conditions, so.
So at this point, Matt, how would we go about and,
Vote to ratify.
okay? Motion to ratify the enforcement order?
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
That would be it.
That's it.
Okay.
thank you. Again, I
Passing these around.
Yeah.
Put your name on top now, so you get all the space.
I looked, trust me. Okay, we're going to move on to our 7:30 PM agenda item, which is a public hearing continued for 31 Bridge Street, and the applicant has requested a continuance without discussion until our July 27th, 2022 meeting. So can I have a motion to that effect?
Second.
All's in favor? Aye. Okay, we're going to move on to our other 7:30 PM agenda item, which is an appointment with the Westford Conservation Trust requesting permission to manage mile-a-minute vine utilizing goats at Gray Fox Lane Conservation Land. Good evening.
No, you guys haven't voted on that one.
Jerry DeBello from the Westford Conservation Trust, and Diane Duane from also the Westford Conservation Trust.
They were sent to the commission this afternoon.
Yes.
There we go. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Diane Duane. I'm on the board of Westford Conservation Trust, and as Jerry said, it's Jerry DeBello. He's coordinator of the Westford Conservation Trust Invasive Species Program. We're here today to talk to you about a pilot program using goats for invasive species control at Gray Fox Conservation Area, where we currently pull mile a minute, an aggressive invasive plant. We've been pulling to control mile a minute here for about 8 years or so.
10.
Up there. As you may know, the trust has been active in the role of controlling certain invasive plant species in Westford, specifically mile a minute, water chestnut, and Westland berry last year, for quite a few years now. We hand pull the mile a minute and water chestnut on town-owned conservation land, town land, and other properties. We estimate our volunteers work about 100 labor hours annually. Currently, all this work is done by volunteers who hand pull the invasive plants. We do use machinery as needed to control invasives on our own trust properties. This work involves a lot of dedicated volunteers working under hot, dirty, and sometimes difficult conditions. We can attest. At Gray Fox, it is getting more difficult to access the mile-a-minute spots that we have to pull due to an increase in these other invasives as well. So in this slide here, we'd like to test the effectiveness of removing invasive plant species using goats who do enjoy eating broadleaf, broad-leaved, and woody plants. They enjoy some common invasives such as increasingly at Gray Fox specifically bittersweet, multiflora rose, buckthorn, and mile-a-minute. So some benefits we see for the goats.
Mugwort, too.
And mugwort, yes, that's a new one for us. Some benefits we see are there's no need for herbicides, no machinery emissions, no fossil fuel emissions. They can access hard-to-reach places that may be difficult for us or machinery to reach, and they're excellent at brush clearing, which is important in things like multiflora rose. And I didn't know this, but they tend to sterilize most of the weed seeds that they eat, so they are no longer viable. So we're here today to propose and seek approval to initiate a pilot program of using goats to control invasives at Gray Fox with treatment area of approximately 1/3 of an acre. The trust will carry the burden of the cost with a maximum limit of $1,000. If approved, we plan to monitor effectiveness and report results to the CONSCOM. And in terms of the basic goat process here, business owner Tammy from Central Mass Goat Rental will bring the goats to the property, release in the proposed site, and then surround it with about 446 feet of electric fence. They will eat invasives and remain at property overnight. She will come back to check on them periodically and as needed to monitor progress and goat safety. So the next slide is the map. And here's a couple of proposed sites. This is approximate because now the plants, Tammy was with us. Jerry and I went out to the site visit a few weeks ago with her, but the plants weren't up as much as they are now. Jerry and I went out just 2 days ago.
So I don't know if people remember this site when it was accepted by the
I do.
Conservation Commission. It was probably a fairly nice-looking meadow.
It was.
Any meadow in disturbed land these days, typically, it's big invite for invasives. So that's pretty much all you've got there now. So just getting to the mile a minute, like she said, is a fight. High boots, long sleeves, even in July, and it's getting harder because it is so filled up now. Multiflora rose too, which is no fun because it's nothing but thorns. Plenty of that. So just thought I'd give you an idea for what you remember and what there really is there now, along with across the street as well, where it's
I'm not
really
surprised.
super overgrown. So
again, that area will be revisited, but that's where our best guess is right now. So the plan, there's several options, and so we're basically thinking of either doing one site or perhaps 2 sites. I mean, there's just so much to choose from, but it kind of depends on goat safety, I guess there's some plants that they can't handle or maybe toxic to them. So now that she can come out and look at some of the plants that have grown, perhaps that will make it easier to decide. But these are a couple of nice sites, we thought.
Jim?
I know Mile a Minute was one of the first invasives that the trust was actively getting volunteers to pull up, and this was one of the earlier sites.
At first at
Lawton Farm.
Lawton
yeah,
property,
and
it was climbing the hill that was
Yep.
pretty much taking up the back lot. The new one is Japanese hops, by the way.
Well, on the
That
Mile a
we've
Minute
added
at this
that.
site, do you know roughly when you started? 'Cause
That was
it
later
was up
than-
near the roadway, I know, on both sides.
It was later, that's why I wondered maybe a couple
Yeah.
years later, perhaps.
When was it?
I think at least a couple years later than Lawton's.
Right, I'm just
Yeah,
trying to.
it first showed up, as I recall, around where the bridge is that goes across
Yes,
the brook.
both
It was
sides.
on both sides,
Yep.
and we think it got there from the hay barrier that was put in there when they constructed the place. We think,
You know,
because who knows where the hay came from and what
do
was
you
in it.
know, do you know roughly like when you would have started with the volunteer pulling?
I don't know, maybe
We started at,
2002, maybe?
oh, I don't know, sorry.
Yeah, because I remember Lawton's was around 2001 or 2000.
All right, so
and
it's
I've
probably in
forgotten. It's been
2001 or
so
2 or
long.
3 in that range, so
Yeah,
probably 20 years. All right.
Yeah, somebody spotted it in there, and
Yep.
that's why we went
And
after it.
it noticed it growing in various locations, and
Yeah, now it's even, last year we
such a
found a
lengthy
big
time.
Exactly.
spot across the brook, actually, that we had to
So after-
fight our way into to get to.
I think doing the goats is a fantastic idea, and I hope it's very successful. My question is though, with the 20 years of manual pulling,
I don't think it's been 20, but
okay,
I think it's
No, more like 10.
10.
okay, 10 years
10,
then.
11, yeah.
All right. Do you think there's more or less on the site now, or do you just know of more or less?
So we're not actually as focused on Mile a Minute in terms of the goats. So here you have an example of what we're seeing today. There's just a huge pile of bittersweet here mixed in with some other invasives. So we're kind of looking at, trying to mitigate access, right? To kind of clear out some of these huge piles of invasives and maybe keep the meadow stable, more stable than it is now. There's just, the sites are popping up left and right.
It does seem like there are more acreage where it has invasives, maybe not all Mile a Minute, but
Exactly.
but
And so
there's more
we
acreage
just
now
noticed that
than
each
there
year
was 10 years ago when you started with just.
Well, it was zero, it was almost zero.
Right.
So each year
you-
we just notice
yeah.
more and more, so that's where we're,
I think you could almost see the brook to begin with. Can't anymore.
so, but anyhow.
Even getting to the brook because there's we found some along there. We try to concentrate on especially any Mile a Minute that's right along the brook, because we're afraid the seeds will drop and go in the brook, and then we'll find the stuff further down.
They don't
so,
take them, the birds move them.
Yeah.
So I guess the focus is, this is one of several invasives that we can actually do something about, I think, and so using this goat program, we thought it would be interesting to see how it might work out for us, and since we're funding it, we thought maybe if we can get approval, this might be a great site, because it's easy to get to, and it's pretty big, and it's away from a lot of houses.
Marilyn, you're up.
Yeah, I fully support this. But the idea also occurs to me that CPC, I sit on as vice chair, might be a good place for you to present a package.
Oh,
A
thank
much
you.
more substantial amount than you're putting in here.
More goats.
Well, I don't know how that.
More
would
goat
work.
hours.
But if this could be your pilot, and then you look at all of Westford and where you'd attack and what a 2-year plan would look like, or a 4-year, 5-year
Oh, I
plan would
see.
look, I think that I could support that if it
Oh,
fit
that's
the
a
criteria.
great idea, thank you.
And
Yeah,
we're talking
because
about a different
really,
size amount of money.
You're right, it'd be a multi-year plan. I mean, if you brought goats in there instead of the regular machinery, then you could put a succession plan and replant
That's what I'm
things
thinking.
that belong.
If this sets the tone and you see what it does and you say, wow, we could accomplish this in this amount of time with this amount of money, then you look and say, what does Westford need? And look at it and see it, and maybe over a 2-3 year
Yeah,
period
I
of
think it will
time.
be. It will be interesting, like, say, the multiflora rose where the goats can get it down to, just get through the thorns,
How
right?
long does that last?
But get it down to.
Well, how long, you mean, after they
Till
eat
that
the
field
stuff?
would do it again,
Oh,
right?
probably the next season. They take it right down to the very bottom.
So are we saying that that it would keep it for one season? I mean,
No,
But then it
for-
would, you'd have small,
Right,
something
no, the
come up.
goats, the way they work is more, it's higher, so they're getting it down, right? They'll get this huge area down to a certain amount, but then you have to come in with the weed wrench, or as
okay,
she
so
mentioned, some,
there'd be additional ways
There
then
is.
to handle the problem once the major
you
issue.
try and get
So
through that.
that's my suggestion going forward. I totally support this, but I think that that would be an interesting thing to explore. And we could do that early on before the next season to see whether it would fit into the criteria, which I think it would off the top of my head, but.
And you were going to say something,
I was just
Margaret?
wondering about the replanting part too. Is there a way to replant with something so that it's less susceptible to the invasives, or?
Well, the idea would be if we could-
Outcompete it?
Yes, how come?
That's what you need to do, is try, and it's hard to outcompete an invasive.
But that's exactly how they talk about the work that goats do. They kind of open up these areas, eat the bittersweet around the goldenrod, and, you know, it opens up
Yeah.
the other plants to be able to outcompete the invasive. So for the last slide, Matt, just
Yes.
wrap up, you guys. So, as you can see from the previous slide, we hope to return the site to a more natural meadow area. Here's some Joe Pyeweed that we saw the other day, just a beautiful, I mean, it's a beautiful plants there, a gray hawk, so.
That's native, thank goodness.
Okay, yeah, and so I think, just in summary, our goals are to manage invasive control techniques under the auspices of CONSCOM and encourage native plant succession and growth.
Margaret, you want to?
I just like your comment about, you know, things with multiflora rows where the goats really can't tackle what's underground. I'm glad to hear that you're talking about then, when it's accessible, bringing people in to get that root mass out, because that really kind of, that gets you a couple of years ahead of future infestation. Yeah.
I love this idea. I was trying to get the AgCom to do this at the
Yeah.
community garden, but it was
Well,
too
as a former
expensive.
goat owner, I'm thinking it's a great idea.
Yeah, my
And
goats used to take care of
I
everything.
can remember once having 13 goats. So, yeah,
Got a few.
building stanchions and doing all of that. But I also do remember goats are susceptible to certain plants because, you know, we lost a few to plants that they love to eat, but they shouldn't have been eating. So at least it's glad to see that at least the owner of the goats will come out and take a look and make sure there are no plants that they could get themselves into and digest that would harm them.
There's also a woman in Pepperell, it's called Goatscaping. She has a business out there. I don't know if you want to price shop.
Sure,
or-
that's great to know, thank you.
You're welcome.
And if you had more money, you might be running more than one set of goats.
Yeah.
Matt, you're gonna?
Just a quick question, what's the anticipated time frame for them?
We needed this approval first before we can.
Okay, just keep in touch with kind of the timelines. But also, I'd just like to, when we do have a firmer timeline, I'd like to send a letter to the neighbors in there, just to
Oh, sure.
give them a heads up that goats are gonna be in the field.
Very good idea.
You know,
Very
just
good idea.
save me a phone call later on.
No, well, it's a very good idea, you know?
Commission have any other questions or comments in regards to the request? Any questions from the audience in regards to this request? Seeing none, can I have a motion to authorize the Conservation Trust permission to, utilize this goat approach to manage invasive weeds at,
So moved.
Second.
all's in favor? Aye. There you go.
There you go.
Thank you so
Good
much for your
luck.
support.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, discussion and action items. The first is ratifying enforcement order issued for 33 West Street.
This was, the property owner was inquired about a certificate of compliance. When I started looking at the order of conditions, one special condition was not satisfied at the, oh good, I did include it. The proposed roof infiltration, oh, I have this too, thanks, awesome. Here we go. The proposed roof infiltration and quick standard leaching chambers. The property owner said those were not installed at the time of construction. And in order to, whereas this the addition and the installation of the roof infiltration was previously approved by the commission for this order of conditions. I went ahead to issued an enforcement order for them to take care of, to, you know, get into compliance by installing erosion controls, kind of some of the common special conditions that the commission typically includes with their orders for this work. Again, get him to compliance with the approved plan, and then I envision a certificate of compliance will come before this commission in the upcoming months.
Commissioner, Jim?
Was there any reason why you didn't install it?
I didn't get into I think it was, you know, a different person doing, you know, the addition, you know, a builder was doing the addition, and it never got installed.
Maybe he thought it wasn't a necessity for it, but hey, you know, we approved it. Margaret? Okay. No other questions from the commission? Can I have a motion then to ratify the enforcement order for 33 West Street?
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Sycamore cypress plantings. Jim?
Been 390 days as of today. The rocks are there, but there's no plants between them.
I will get them installed. I will get them purchased and installed.
You should get the highway department there with a backhoe. They could dig a hole in about 2 seconds.
I need to buy them first.
They were complicit in the trimming activity that happened without us even knowing about it 390 days ago.
There you go.
But who's counting?
Okay, we're going to move on to our next discussion item, which is an update on the enforcement order for 87 Graniteville Road.
I met with the property owner last week, Tuesday. As at the last commission meeting, the property owner spoke about the historic granite bridge that was in approximately the same location as where the existing PVC pipes are. In excavating and using the auger, soil auger and a spade, was able to find some angular pieces of granite that I do believe to be consistent with, you know, a historic kind of wetland crossing. It was about 12 to 15 inches below the existing grade. So it certainly does make sense that there was a historic crossing. With that being said, the property owner also, where we did realize it was down 12 to 15 inches, in order to, you know, remove the existing stream crossing and revert back to the historic, there would be a significant amount of disturbance, and wanted to come before the commission to see if the commission would be amenable to leaving the existing crossing as it does. It is functioning, it is, you know, providing habitat connectivity on both sides of the cart path going.
Do you got any photos or anything?
I do I never pulled them off my phone apparently.
Okay. You know, I'd like to take understand it a little better, and it's hard for me to understand that right now. I hear what you're saying, but a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Maybe we do this at the next meeting. Doesn't matter.
Thoughts, Jim?
I wouldn't mind seeing it either, seeing it also, where it's exactly located. We've done this in the past where there's been roadways invisible on the surface. I think it was an old car lot or something on 110. And to get to the back where they had their septic system, there had been a roadway built that was kind of invisible if you looked around, but if you poked around for it, dug a little bit. No, not the junkyard, it was down the other side of 110. I can't remember the address, but anyway, if there is a road there, it might be better to leave it. But I would want to see it though.
Yeah, I want to take, can better evaluate it if I can see a picture or something.
Yeah, and I can certainly find some historical aerial imagery.
To show where the original location is and.
Yeah,
the pipes.
exactly.
Okay.
And, you know, if you're telling me that it's better to leave it the way it is today than to try to revert it back to the way it was, you know, I want to understand that more fully before I say okay.
Okay, and would a after-the-fact filing kind of approve, to going through the process to approve this stream crossing, would that be a better avenue for the commission to codify the conditions?
Well, how about we take a look at, and
Photos
see
and
the
then-
pics, and we'll
okay.
go from there.
Yep.
Sound like a good pathway
Yeah.
forward?
Definitely.
And just quickly, the erosion, the seeds have started to sprout, the erosion, what was seeded in the disturbed area has certainly started to take hold. Probably would have been better if we weren't in a drought, but they have started, and I do have photos of that as well.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of observations if I could.
Absolutely.
Paulson Cotta, 83 Graniteville Road. So maybe something that the commission would consider in the culvert removal. I wanted to sort of speak specifically.
No, I want to hear what you have to say.
And in your site visit, then, I can see the merits to both it staying in place, but also I want to point out maybe some of the things to consider if it does stay in place. So the property it's been used as a dump for stumps and commercial construction waste and all that sort of stuff. And I think the intent of it being in the order for removal was to discourage accessing that part of the site, and so there is an upland on the other side of the stream, but the sort of the geometry of how the wetlands are on that property, effectively, all of that uplands, once you cross over the stream, are within the 100-foot buffer. So, to me, one of the downsides of the crossing staying in place is it encourages the continued sort of dumping that's happened historically over the years. And the dumping, the material was removed from the buffer zone as required by the order, but it didn't leave the property. So there's hundreds of yards of stumps and the construction materials. It was just simply moved to a different part of the property. My concern would be that it just is an enticement to cross the stream and access deeper into the property where it's
Well, I'm
hard to
curious
see.
as to the necessity for the crossing.
Right.
You know, there's, I guess, some historical sense that there might have been one. Its utilization, I don't know. But as you say, if it's whatever is out there is going to be basically within a resource area or the buffer to the resource area, I'm trying to understand the necessity for that
Yep.
crossing.
And I absolutely get, Matt's point that removing it, it's not a minor operation, so it is disruptive, and all the right precautions have to be taken to do that. But by the same token, keep in mind the order in terms of a grandfathering aspect of this culvert. The order did call for removal of a shed on that property that long predated, I'm certain, that culvert, and there was no challenge to removing the shed. So maybe while technically, and Matt, I think you might know better, but while technically the existing culvert, maybe it has some grandfathering sort of protection, it seems inconsistent with what the intent of the order was, which was really to discourage crossing the stream and accessing for where dumping was happening on the other side of the stream. And again, the shed was removed, and that was a lot older than the culvert. So some stuff to keep in mind as you go out and take a look at the circumstances there. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm sure, Matt, you have your own photos, but I think some of the photos attached to the correspondence that are in the file from us have similar photos.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll just continue this forward at our next meeting as a discussion item. Okay, we're going to move on to our next discussion item, which is a request for certificate of compliance for 6 Weedham Way.
The property owner was before the commission probably only a couple months ago. He was having drainage issues along his house from his driveway, and Land Tech consultants prepared the plan to size the roof infiltration, and I think also driveway infiltration appropriately. The work was done, and erosion controls were installed. In lieu of seeding it, he put down sod, so it was instantly stabilized, which kind of was nice for a change, as opposed to having to wait and watch grass grow. But everything appeared to be satisfactorily completed. There were some photos the homeowner provided, a little distortedly, but I recommend the commission issue this certificate of compliance for 334-1792.
Motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're down the bottom now. Sorry, I had to handwrite you in.
Very good. Okay, we're going to move on to the meeting minutes for May 11th, 2022. Any questions, comments, changes?
I had a minor editorial correction within to with, just
Yes, under 143 Carlisle Road, on the third line of that section, the commission disagreed with, as opposed to within.
I had another one. On the last page, 19, is my last name is no longer Berard. It's Donovan.
I think that's how it showed in the email.
Okay.
Your name is still Berard in your email.
Okay.
And that's, I think that's where
Yeah,
she
and that's
pulled the
probably-
document from.
I mean, we can-
Yeah.
All right.
I can try and change that in my email. I will
I
try.
have to change it in my email. It's my fault.
I will try. Number 19. I'll see if I can, see what I can do.
Thanks.
So can I have a motion then to approve the meeting minutes for our May 11th, 2022 meeting as amended?
I wasn't here, so
Second.
someone else.
All's in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Okay, our next agenda item is commission reorganization and commissioner reappointment to other boards and committees.
Noel had one discussion at the, which I guess I put down in miscellaneous.
Okay,
And Moore Road.
Yeah, Enmore
And
Road.
more, yeah.
where's that?
The,
Not on here.
She sent it out.
yeah, no, it was just in miscellaneous.
Did you send it out? Did you?
Yes.
Huh?
I didn't get it.
So I was out paddleboarding around, checking things out, and I took some pictures of what's going on that property, and fencing has been destroyed, and I believe in the plans this was supposed to be a naturalized area, and there's black mulch down, which is not natural. It has dyes in it, which generally are carbon. Not really the end of the world, but definitely not naturalized.
Where are you pointing?
All of this right here is mulched, and these are, I'm not sure, I think they might be inkberries, I'm not positive on what those are, but they're also, there's a pump here, and they're irrigating from the water to water those plants. But this fencing is all destroyed.
So I'll speak with the developer. I know it was installed in the water originally when they were removing the railroad ties and installing the natural stone wall. But Noel's right, there should, I mean, they have erosion, they have a straw wattle on top of the,
But that's less than naturalized.
right,
So
that's,
she's
and so,
correct.
yeah, and I'll look at the plan to see what it called. I don't know if it was a naturalized area or if it was a plant, where plantings were to occur. I can revisit the plan that was the approved
I
planting.
think that's a little more maintained than what we would be seeking that close to the
Especially
resource.
so close to the water, yeah. And with the dyes and the mulch, that we don't really want that going into the water.
Did you send that to everybody?
I did,
It was
I
in
just
the
sent it
packet.
to Matt, but it was in the packet.
I missed it somehow.
Yeah, it was in miscellaneous. I didn't have something at the end.
Do I have a-
And there's actually a bunch of houses around town, around the water that are pumping water up to irrigate their lawns. Yeah, it wasn't printed.
Beauty.
Just have it in the,
Oh,
so, yeah.
okay.
I sent Matt pictures of those, like, I don't know, last summer maybe.
But is it might be just having a de minimis effect? I mean, at the rates they're pumping, do you think they're having any
Well, if
effect?
everyone does it.
Okay.
Even then, it's a
There
pretty
are
big, Lake
maybe-
Nab's a pretty big lake.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if there is a rule that says that they couldn't pump from it.
I never heard of that before, personally.
I don't know.
I haven't seen anything
I've
from
never
kind
heard-
of my
I've never heard
correspondence,
anybody bring it up,
in the,
ever.
No?
No.
from Mass DEP, I haven't seen any,
Well, that one on Groton Road, they had something in the water, and they had this big pumping apparatus. So I think, yes, it's probably been a fairly common practice over the years.
But if there's fertilizer or
Right.
anything else
So that
on
runoff.
yeah, and never mind the dyes and the mulch or whatever.
Yeah.
They don't really, I mean, we're trying to get rid of the weeds and things in the pond anyway.
We get a
so
ruling on that?
don't wanna-
I can certainly reach out to the circuit rider and get some,
And, the
They handle it, and if they've
The-
occasion before that.
Lake Nab Preservation Association, NLPA,
NLPA.
Well, that's Dan. He's the one doing this.
But the circuit rider would be the good source.
yeah, circuit rider, I'll also reach out to the MSMCP, the other conservation resource
Reach out
professionals.
And see how it's.
Okay,
and
yeah.
That will make it more neutral.
All right. Oh, yeah, definitely.
But definitely, I like the fact that you're, as you're paddling around, you're taking a look at, and
Oh,
that's,
yeah.
Yeah.
They're not gonna like the fact.
She's out there
that she's
Hawaii
paddling
5-0 on
around.
her surfboard.
well, I'm loving boots on the ground. We'll give her a little blue flashing light or something, A cam, we'll
Yeah.
put a little cam up there for you.
And your assistant.
My assistant, yep.
Well,
So-
but also in looking, in the larger picture, looking off to the right, there's a lot of bare slope and
With no
Yeah.
erosion
with no
control.
erosion
Yeah.
control in place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll reach out and
Okay.
get those.
Yeah, and they got
installed.
some additional block up higher. You can see what they're, and it's being managed right up there somehow, just beyond that tree there.
Yeah.
So, thanks for taking a look at it, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay, commission reorganization and commission appointment to other boards and committees. God, I wasn't here at our last meeting, which was Peter's last meeting. And I just want to say that, Peter was an incredible man and just
He still is.
a truly wonderful member of the commission. And I'm not saying that, but I mean, he's just,
It was great.
it was great.
We're lucky. We had
Yeah.
you before, we had him. It was
Yeah,
very good.
And it's,
Consistently good board.
we'll miss him when it comes to negotiating for properties. I mean, he, had a lot of knowledge, a lot of expertise, and he really benefited the town.
Oh, definitely.
And he gave of his time so selfishly, so,
He was recognized by the select board.
a tremendous asset to this town, But I think of it, and, one of a long line of very environmentally conscious people in this town who have done so much. And, this town is so much better for that.
Agreed.
So, yeah, really, really, really wonderful. And I'm going to miss him a lot. But with that said, what do you want to do? Marilyn?
Make a nomination. We need a new chair. I want to thank you for everything that you've done, but I'd like to make a nomination for chair to be Margaret Wheeler. Margaret served on the board, at least 10 years, Margaret? Because this is your second time back with us.
I think I had 12 years the first time and.
And she was a vice chair at one time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my experience with Margaret, number one, it's delightful to have a woman. I love everybody, but it's very nice to have a woman as well. But you do great attention to detail. You always do your homework. I mean, I'm just thinking of the time the two of you worked together just on 5 million pieces of property. Those 6-month camps. And so she is my nomination for chair.
I'd like to second that.
Any further discussion? I'm fine with that. Motion then to have Margaret become the new chair of the Conservation
Show
Commission.
of hands. Great.
There you go.
And I'm also hoping
Congratulations.
that you would stay on as vice chair.
I'd be happy with that if that's the will of the commission.
Board?
Yes,
Yes.
Second that?
Motion to that effect then?
So moved.
second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Because I think that brings a bit of the new, the old, keeps the consistency.
Well, I had mentioned this to Matt, and I thought that that was probably the best. Because, if I continued to be chair and just did it, it wasn't forcing anybody else to step up front and having to go through it and then ask the question. And I'd rather be here to be able to provide the answer.
I just think it's a good team. I think you have a good, strong
No,
team at this table anyway.
I'm very happy that way.
I'm glad you're
Yeah, no, very. So, now we have appointment to other boards and committees. And are you up again for a member of the
I was
CPC?
reappointed 2 weeks ago.
The CPC.
Yeah, I'll only be 90 when I finish my term. Yeah. No. I'm talking about Conscom. I was appointed by the select board. And I do need this group to, I hope you will, reappoint me to CPC, which is another love of my life.
So moved?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, I don't see any need for discussion.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Anywhere else that we're needed on for a liaison for a committee? Aren't you still ag?
Yeah, I would,
Was that ever official, like this, the same way?
it's a liaison as
Oh, right.
opposed to, and so yes, that's one of the things I've been thinking about, and it's like, there is going to be a lot of stepping up, a lot of learning, there's some big shoes to fill, and I would really like to be able to hand off the liaison role to somebody else to work with AgCom, because I think they need support, they need encouragement, and I've tried to do that for the last year and a half, 2 years, whatever it's been. But I really would like if somebody else can pick that up.
I guess you don't have to all raise your hand tonight.
I would be happy to. I would be happy to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know you,
But I didn't want to.
Yeah, I've been going to the meetings and, yeah, I would love to do that.
That'd be totally awesome.
That would be totally awesome.
For all of
Motion
us.
to have Noel be the new commission liaison to the Ag Committee.
so moved.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Can I vote for myself?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have to abstain. Thank you.
Matt, can you send a note to, just wondering who you have to tell?
I'll figure it out.
Okay.
I'll tell somebody.
Yeah, nobody has to vote on this. Nobody has to vote on it once,
No.
the appointment is made. So, for instance,
I think that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for stepping up.
Of course, yeah.
We have one
we
gentleman.
have our railroads. Jim protects our railroads. I think that's hysterical.
you?
Oh, it was just,
Just watching.
Okay, great.
Okay, great.
it's gonna be a whole nother company, so.
But maybe it'll be better.
We'll see.
I'll be the paddleboarder who,
Commission have any other items they want to discuss before I seek a motion to adjourn? Seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
3-week break now?
Nice, I get home before storage
We have
time.
a 3-week break? What
We do.
I love that.
You might.
Yes, to the 13th.
do you mean we might?
You might have a 5-week
Maybe
break.
five.
There may be a
Well,
five.
There's no new hearings been opened. on-
Oh, June 13th, if,
July
or
13th.
July 13th, excuse me, whether it will be held or not is up in the air, I think. It was